Good morning, boaters. Keith McGowan here. I am the Outboard Dad, here to help you have a better boating experience. That's what it's all about here, helping you do things like this so that you can get back out on the water. Maybe you're a mechanic and you don't feel comfortable working on your outboard. Maybe you're an auto mechanic or a small engines mechanic or whatever it is that you are. You can do these things yourself. I started as a small engines mechanic, got into automotive, got into heating and air conditioning for 40 years, and still work on these motors, rebuilt cars. You can do these things with research and the right guidance. Don't forget my used outboard motor buying guides for sale on Amazon for $20. I'm still offering through the spring here. I'm not sure how far into the spring I'm going to offer this, but it's going to be a limited time where if you show me proof of purchase at keith@outboarddad.com to my email, I'm offering a free half-hour session over the phone to help you with a motor you're looking to buy or a boat you're looking to buy or a motor that you're working on. So we got all of our fuel system set up, all of our tubing set up here. Now we're going to get into some linkage. I'd spin the motor a little bit here so we can get the linkage set up, make sure it's all where it needs to be and not flip-flop reverse. Sometimes it can get reversed and get confused, and it'll confuse you. We want to make sure we're in that right positions to get started. One of the little baggies I saved here has all my linkage bolts in it. So there's a shoulder bolt that goes on the top. So let's get that. That's this one here, which you see is not connected. If you remember, we just put this one nut on here when we connected our stator because we wanted to be sure that everything was lined up properly. So we're going to continue that today and put this on, and then if you remember, this is going to turn and it's going to catch our throttles on our carburetors. Our carburetors are going to be next. We're going to get into them today. So let's just get this linkage bolted up, and then we'll take it from there. Okay, our linkage is connected for our throttle. Our shifter linkage is proper. It was actually flipped around the other side. It was going down instead of up right here. So you can flip down very easily. We don't want it to do that. We want to keep it upwards when we put it together. So that's ready to go to shift into forward, neutral, reverse. Now it's time for carburetors. I have a bunch of carburetor bolts here and nuts, and we've got some gaskets. So first thing I'm going to do is clear out a nice clean spot on my bench. I'll probably move over to this side because the block's getting a little heavy now. I can't just grab it and flip it over anymore. I can probably put my flywheel on too, so we might as well get that done. We'll clean that up first, get the flywheel on, then we'll flip over here, come to a clean spot that we can pull apart our carburetors and see what they look like inside and clean them up. So let's just get this flywheel on just to get it secured and on there. Also, we're going to need the flywheel on to rig this when we get ready to rig it up onto the block. So we want to make sure there's no metal pieces, filings, little wire wheel pieces inside here. Make sure it's clean. There is a keyway on this that stayed on there. We got to make sure we line up the keyway nice and straight so that it locks in. Then we'll put our nut on. Now I'm not going to tighten this yet. Number one, because my impact tool is on top of or inside my toolbox, and I have the top of the toolbox that closes with all kinds of parts on it. So we'll tighten it up when we get there. We won't forget to do that. I'll put a little piece of masking tape over it, and that'll remind me to make sure that I tighten it up. Now we want to get into these carburetors. So let's open these up. We got some new gaskets for them too. So I'm going to pull these off of the little manifolds one by one to start with. This is where our fuel enters, right? And we have a linkage piece that connects to the other side. So this is the one that goes on our shift linkage side. Now, when we take a look at this, we see there's something missing here. So I have another one of these followers. It's broken. Although it still looks intact, there's a sleeve that goes over top of it that's missing, that cracks and falls off. That'll throw off our throttle and timing, right? Because our timing and throttle has to work together. That may have actually caused some misfiring or it not to run too well either. So we'll definitely do that. And then we're also going to clean out this fuel rail. We'll spray everything out, and let's do them one by one. So these have bolts here and here. So we'll zip them off. Nice clean rag I have here. And there's an O-ring that goes around here. You can see it stayed stuck to that. We have new ones. And there's also an adjustment here. Now I'm not going to go crazy adjusting anything. I just want to make sure things are clean. So we have our throttle body and carbon choke cleaner. So we'll be spraying some of that through this. But first I want to take these bowls off, because this is where they get dirty. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray this off first so I don't get dirt inside there while I'm pulling it apart. Now I can hear the float moves pretty well, but we just want to be sure that everything is clean. We also want to check our float level to make sure it's even. Make sure the level is level. So with this carburetor, we have our floats actually in the bowls, and the needles are in the bowls, so that we can see. Now I'm going to go ahead and take this screw out, and then we're going to pull that float out. We're going to put this aside, and we're going to just make sure there's no dirt down in the bottom of it. We'll spray it out really good, because that's where it ends up laying down inside there. Now the plastic carburetors, there's a lot of opinions on. Guys didn't like them. Sometimes they get warped. I've found the ones that warp are when you have a plastic bowl on a metal carburetor, although these can warp at times too. And you can go ahead and take this on a flat surface with a sandpaper. You don't want to take too much off, just enough to get it so that it seals. These were not leaking. I pumped that pressure bulb really hard. They weren't leaking, so I'm not going to do anything with them unless we have to. So let's pull this. Float out with the needle. I'm going to get my cheater glasses on. I'm going to look at this needle really closely, make sure there's not a ring around it that's indented into it. If it is, we're going to have to get a rebuild kit. So unless it's not a rubber tip, even if it's metal or rubber, we don't want an indentation in there. But this is key. We want to see, and when we look down inside here, this is spotless, nice and clean. We're still going to flush it out with some carburetor cleaner and make sure, but I'm happy to see this. As I said, we're still going to blow everything through and make sure we're good to go. So blow through all the little passageways in there, and any of you who've watched my videos before, I like to use little WD-40 when I'm done. I don't like to leave it dried out from the carburetor cleaner. So let's take a look at this needle a little closer, and we'll see what it looks like. Rubber needle looks good. Whoops. Let's not drop that pin. Well, let's not lose that pin. So we can look at our needle closely here. I can take my rag and kind of clean it if it has a little bit of, two-stroke oil deposits on it. And it looks nice. So we can go ahead and reinstall this. Now I do see a little hair on there. I don't know if that's just from me just doing that now. I did blow through here where our fuel enters to make sure that's clean. So we're going to go ahead and reassemble this. There's another piece of hair on there. And we want to make sure this is nice and clean is the key, and that the floats are level. So let's reinstall this. Put our screw back in. Now, he did mention to me that he had cleaned out the carburetors or had someone rebuild the carburetors when I bought the motor, because he was hoping that's what the problem was, and then found out he had low compression. So we want to make sure that these hang float. See how it's not moving right now? So something's not in the right way. I see my little clip is binding. There we go. So it looks level the way it's supposed to be. So we should be good to go with this one. Now I'm going to take the carburetor and I'm going to go through all the little ports. We'll take this plate off. There's just ports inside here, nothing crazy to see. And we're going to go ahead and just blast through with our carburetor cleaner. So we took that plate off. We're going to blow through, clean all that out. And we can see it come through all the holes, so we know it's cleaning thoroughly. So now we're just going to reassemble. So we're going to put that back together with the new gaskets that we have. We'll go through our kit, see what gaskets we picked up. And then we're going to do each carburetor the same way. If I find something, I'll definitely videotape it, but we're just going to do all the other three the same way. So after you put the bowl back on and you have it reassembled, you want to just shake it. Make sure that that bolt is free inside there. If it's not moving at all, then you got to pull it apart again. Something's binding. So you want to make sure that float works freely inside there, like this one. So these O-ring gaskets fit inside here. They only go in one way. I like to put, again, a little lube on, a little WD-40. You can use a little two-stroke oil if you want to. But you want to make sure you fit it in here, and the oil kind of makes it stick into place. So that this way when you go to install it, it has a better chance of not coming out of its spot. So we want to make sure we get that in there all the way. So on our manifold here, we have some screws we're going to remove because we want to clean this part out where these jets are as well. Now I'm not messing with the adjustment because I have a feeling someone has already played with it, which means we're going to have to play with it again. But I like to play with that while we're running. I don't want to go ahead and turn that all the way in and out and mess it up and make things worse. We're just going to clean it really well. So you can see inside here, we want to make sure we clean all that out. Now, most of these gaskets are rubber. They don't necessarily have to be replaced on every single one of them. If you do see a rip or a hole or something like that, then obviously you have to replace it. Otherwise, they can go right back into place. So now that this part is clean, this side is all done. I made sure my gasket, my O-ring gasket that's inside there, nice new fresh one that we're using. Doesn't mean you can't reuse the old ones. If you look at them and they're not O-rings anymore, they're flat, then maybe you shouldn't use it. And sometimes if you spray cleaner on it, they'll shrink a little bit and they'll be harder. So you always want to have new gaskets ready if needed. And then since it's a little tricky to get this all inside all of its grooves, I don't want to turn it upside down and have it fall out or just a hair of it fall out and I don't know it. So I'm going to go ahead and just put this on this way. And then flip it over holding it. Oh, now I better make sure. See, if you don't hold it, you just got to make sure. And then we'll hold it flat. And now we'll go ahead and put our bolts in. So I get these started using my, my tool, but this is all plastic. I don't want to crank with that thing. I'd rather do it, I can kind of feel when I smush that O-ring, when it meets the surface and then it stops. So I like to do these by hand. I don't want to crack or warp the plastic carburetor. Now we'll do the next one and the other two.